Sports Matters TV.
Okay, guys, welcome to Sports Matters TV and the WrestleSlam podcast special. I'm joined by Vic. We all know Vic from our screens. An epic guy, one of the greatest tag teams, in my opinion, of all time. I'm looking forward to seeing him back on the screens in the near future. No doubt big things are to happen. But first of all, Vic, you look very chilled, which is good. And I know you're a Canadian man. I lived in Vancouver for many years. An Irishman out in Canada. It's pretty surreal. But how's things in your world at the moment, my man?
I mean, they are pretty chill. I mean, that's how I try really to spend most of my days for the most point in time. I mean, it's in these times, it's much better to be chill than to be going crazy. That's for sure. So
Definitely. And things are looking up, Vic. So, I suppose things are kind of starting to kick off. Indie scene is pretty big at the moment again. First of all, what's happening in your world? Do we have things to look forward to in the coming months? Obviously, look, there's potential bookings.
I mean, all that I haven't talked to Connor much because he takes most of our bookings. I know I just finally kind of put up my info for people to get a hold of me if they want to book us for stuff. But potentially right now, we did have something this weekend, and just kind of had to drop off. Unfortunately, the company's just kind of struggling as anywhere, and sometimes I think they just overextend themselves. And unfortunately, it's just happened where, I think their last 3 events now, financially, they just haven't been able to afford us, more or less. And I don't know, what can you say? You know what I mean? I get it. It's indie wrestling. It's unfortunate. It's just and sometimes it just comes down to being too last minute, where it's well, we had other stuff we could have done, you know what I mean, at the time. And I don't know. So future-wise, unfortunately, we will not be doing the show we were supposed to be at this weekend. And other than that, the only person I know I've spoken with recently was for Outlaw Pro Wrestling was Bull Dempsey, and I think that's coming up, but not until December. So, my schedule is pretty relaxed. I know Connor keeps pretty busy doing. He's a coach over at the Wrestling Lab with Jay Lethal and David Mercury, and they've got an awesome school there. Just such an awesome community. I drop by every so often, and I'm just so impressed with how they do everything there. Even there was one time I was sitting there watching Jay Lethal, and I was just like, holy shit! I've had a lot of great coaches in my time. I'm so blessed for that. But even listening to him, I was still learning, new things about wrestling. And then the fact was, he would get in, you know what I mean, and he could virtually walk people through what he was doing, and he can show it better, which, sometimes at the Performance Center it was hard because we didn't have, not that we didn't have great coaches, but they weren't actually allowed to get in the ring with us sometimes, that was what kind of sucked when Malenko was there. There was one of the greatest technical wrestlers of all time, but his health issues, they're like, no, don't even step inside that ring, Dean. So.
You spoke of trainers. I'm glad you mentioned that, right? We have to talk about the Heart Dungeon, the famous. It was always on my to-do list to get there. Now, unfortunately, I never did. But what was it like being there and being around, I suppose, Stu and all these people? Because there's always great people. You always had great stories. It's the great Canadian, history of wrestling. The Canadians are the best. That's what we say. So what was it like being around there and stuff?
I mean, it was awesome. And when I started, it was a complete dream come true to be in that environment. I mean, it was just surreal all the time because it was very suiting to the name of Dungeon. And there wasn't really too many dull moments with Bruce and the Hart family. And there's always kind of something going on. The training was always so brutal because we were doing full-on shit on this mat. Back in Stu's days when they were training there and doing dungeon stuff, it wasn't everybody taking hip tosses and shit like that. It was more mat based. And we did it all. So we did it all, and it was always an experience. You'd never go in and not have an interesting day of practice where either you were dying of laughter or just physically dying. It was awesome. And I'm so thankful for everything I had there. Everybody I mean, I've never seen a place so all around where everybody really was a teacher, whether they knew it or not. And it was a pretty awesome experience, that I came up there. So,
Is there a big gap there at the moment? Because look, obviously you know yourself. I always wonder. Do you know what I mean? Obviously in Canada that was a huge thing. We all know about the heart dungeons and stuff. But obviously people still talk about it. Do you think there's a big void there? Do you think that's obviously missed greatly? That it wasn't kept on. I know people pass away and stuff, but like maybe it should have been kept on. Someone should have taken over.
well, I mean, the house got sold at one point in time, right? The family eventually sold it, and so I know it is a historical landmark, but the room that the dungeon was in the basement, they like redid it. It looks like a modern day exercise room,
Yeah.
more or less. At least the last time I saw it. It's been a while since I've seen any pictures or anything of it. Um, but I mean, TJ, I know TJ's training people, Tyson Kidd,
Yeah.
and if there's nobody really other than him and Harry and Eddie that would have spent more time in that place that wasn't Stu, more or less. So I think the tradition carries on. I think it's like, if anything, unfortunate is how WWE had to kind of play down the family. I feel like after everything, and I don't know now if they still don't acknowledge like Natty's origins and stuff like that. Like anytime they mention the family, and I kind of get it. I guess like there's always been some friction, but it shouldn't take away from, I mean, that great history of where it came from. Like,
Of course.
I think there's bad blood in any great history, especially a story. And I think that family and what they've done for wrestling and just that lineage of everything deserves to always be acknowledged. So it's a great part of WWE history. And I know for me, like even while I was there, it was like they didn't want to ever say like, "Oh, he's from the dungeon." Like it was something that like I was told they just wasn't allowed to talk about. So eventually I'm like, cool, I'll just let it go.
No, I agree 100%. Like, and obviously, it obviously put you in a good stead because look, we know what you've done. Obviously, look, we'll talk about NXT, the early days. You were in some fantastic matches. Easily one of the greatest tag teams, yourself and Connor. In NXT. Obviously, went to the main roster. Well, we're not going to say main roster. Look, people say main roster, but to me, NXT is main roster. But obviously, Raw. You know what I mean? Doing your thing there. Like, what
Yeah.
was it like, obviously, crossing over and I know the indie scene after the Stu Hart and all that kind of stuff. It's obviously going to NXT. How did you find that transition and did you like it? Because, look, some of your best days, obviously, for a fan would be in NXT.
I mean, that's such a way better worded question than I think I've ever gotten there. That's funny. I mean, so, it's awesome, like you point out now, like, yeah, NXT is main roster. And I agree with that. Back then it was not. And it was all still our goal to get out of there and get to the main roster. So like when that did happen for us, like we were very happy about it. Because like we felt like at the time we'd already been in NXT for a while, right? Like we were there since its origins, and like both of us had been there in FCW, and it was like you just kind of wanted to make the next step. And it wasn't that we weren't like there was nothing we disliked about it, because it was awesome. And so like we were always kind of, if anything, a little bitter when after we left, we were like, oh, now they're finally doing all the cool shit that we always talked about, like now they're going and they're doing the touring and the international tours and stuff like that. And we're like, that does kind of suck. But at the time I was really tired of being at home. Like I just didn't want to be doing that same thing anymore. And we really wanted to make the jump. So the announcement of it was exciting, but there was always like something just off about everything. Like but that's just kind of WWE for the most part. Like it wasn't like there was anything specifically off. It was just like shit's wacky, and whatever like you get told one day is not what happens the next day, and it just plays out the way it does. I mean, we weren't particularly happy about the pictures we were shown, and knowing that we were going to come out with stupid eye makeup and the shoulder pads and shit because we were like, this isn't us. Like we'd already built our brand, within NXT, and thought that we were doing pretty good with that. Just for being told we had to change and whatever, it was like, well, we just kind of try to roll with the punches, and like the punches just kind of kept getting worse.
And like it's frustrating, Vic, because as a fan, we can all see it. We can see it right now. We're fans. We can see what's happening. Like you guys started at NXT. Probably the most successful tag team of all time in NXT. You go to Raw. We go to SmackDown, and they get it wrong. They get it wrong. It's frustrating. We go to live shows. You do the European tours, and we're seeing shit, and we're quietly booing because we don't like the outcomes of matches. It just seems to me that they seem to ruin good tag teams. There's been numerous tag teams.
I mean, I wouldn't just say with the tag teams. We weren't, by no means were we the first or were we the last that kind of had the same process happen. You know what I mean? Going from NXT to the main roster. And, maybe now with Vince and Bruce Pritchard being down there and actually like putting their hands on it, maybe that'll stop. But at the same time, maybe it won't be NXT anymore.
Yeah.
And I think, like I can remember, talking one time with Paul Heyman and being like, NXT is like a PG version of ECW, was kind of where we were at the time. And that seemed super awesome to me. That was super cool. I actually haven't thought about that in a long time, but like it was just the two of us standing there before a takeover talking about it. And that was really cool to be a part of. So like if anything, like I missed that, and I missed kind of watching NXT grow more and being a part of that. But at the same time, like when we got to the main roster, I was really happy because our schedule was kind of way better. I was never home. When I was at home, I didn't have to answer to somebody anymore, I guess, when I was at home. Like, you finally kind of had a little bit of time, and being on the road was so much better because like you kind of made your schedule yourself during the day to get where you needed to be and do stuff. And so like at that point, it was such a cool thing to do in the career. So like that, all that was awesome, and all the new experiences were awesome. Like I managed to go see a lot of old friends always when we were on the road doing stuff that I hadn't seen in years, and I met many new friends who I'm still friends with to this day, all around the country, and that was pretty awesome. Like, so all that kind of stuff was cool.
Is it fair to say you miss it? You obviously miss the traveling because look, I know it's a hectic schedule. We sometimes see wrestlers.
I don't miss the traveling.
You love it, yeah?
No, I don't miss the traveling. I miss being able to see people and stuff, but I actually this year so far when I've traveled, it's not as bad, and I think it's because everything's quieter. But I'm a very oh man, I'm like a hermit basically. Like COVID to me was like, are you kidding? Cool, lock me up. That's fine. Like nobody else is allowed out. Cool. Like now I'm excited to go out. Like that's fun. I don't know. It gets overwhelming to me being out in public in airports. I just found people were really bad before COVID hit, where like people just stopped giving a shit that anybody else was around them. You know what I mean? Like, and there's so many people when you're in airports. It's just, I don't know. It just started to bother me too much, where it's like, wow, there's nowhere that you can go and just like breathe, without having somebody else like half sucking in your air. So, COVID's been a blessing for that.
Yeah, I've spoke to a lot of people that have. I've seen guys that I haven't seen for years, and I'm telling you, they look $1 million. They're all the grey hairs have returned to normal brown or black hair. They're really on a different world, and it's great to see it. It's absolutely great to see it, and I completely understand where you're coming from. I had a good couple of months where I rediscovered myself. I was out walking, not having to answer to a boss. You know what I mean? It was fantastic. Like things are obviously, look, we know there's so much ahead. But is it fair to say that hunger, Vic, is still there? Do you still have that hunger to wrestle? Do you still have that hunger to do big things? Because look, we have to mention All Elite Wrestling, Impact. Look, all these organizations, they're for some people, they're for not people. But it's only probably a matter of time before, if not, something comes to you guys, and they'll want to work with you because look, you can't erase history. You guys were awesome in NXT. It was a complete shock when you know, teams kind of went tits up. But look, we understand as a fan how frustrating that was. As a fan, we can see why that happened, because they don't understand products and this and that. Like, are you open to that kind of stuff down the road? Is this something that you'd like to do?
I mean, we've talked about it a lot. I think at first, like, we just kind of wanted to go out and enjoy wrestling again. It was really like I myself personally, like, I was burnt out super hard by the end of, you know, being released and whatever. And like what we've been able to actually do since, you know, being released and kind of being back out was like, for the most part, like, I really enjoyed like what we were doing again. And for a while, I didn't have the hunger. And now I'm at a point where like I really enjoy what I'm doing, but I don't know if I desire doing it except on a bigger level.
Yeah.
Because a lot of it, I see a lot of really great talent nowadays. Like all the places we've worked, I have nothing but good things to say about all the like up and coming talent that I see everywhere else, and I almost want to see all of them get an opportunity way before, like, I don't know, I kind of concern myself with myself. I think I've stepped outside my ego so much, but that's at the same time why I only, at the same time, really kind of, I either want to do something bigger now or I'm not really concerned about it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't know why. I don't have the answers for certain things of like, hey, why aren't these people just knocking down your door to book you guys? Because it seems like a no-brainer.
Yeah.
But it's just, it is what it is right now, and I'm fine to go either way with what it is. Like I do love to perform and wrestle, but that's about all I love about it anymore, really, is just actually getting in the ring and performing. I have no desire to bullshit somebody or do a bullshit dance and sell somebody on something if they're not buying it. Like I feel like me and Connor have a pretty strong brand where people who know us, like especially all the people in these companies, know that we're just no bullshit and we'll come in and do exactly what we do better than anybody else. And we're gonna make everybody else look good while we do it. So
I agree.
I don't know. It's just at a funny place where I know we want to do more. It's just unfortunate that nothing is being done at this moment.
I understand. I recall back to, I think it was 2014 where yourself and Connor came out and you faced The Miz and Damien Shadow and the pop and the whole, you know, fucking like, oh yes, they're really gonna get that push that, you know what I mean, they deserve and stuff. If someone came to you and said, look, say someone from All Elite Wrestling came to you and said, look, guys, we want to really, you know, bring you back to what you were, and you know, we want you to challenge for tag team championships. Look, we're all about, you know, looking after wrestlers and stuff, and that would obviously be a big enough thing for you to look at, wouldn't it? Because obviously, look, we know All Elite is pretty big.
I wouldn't say no. I wouldn't say no. Like there's nothing. There's absolutely nothing bad going on at all in wrestling as far as I'm concerned. Like they have one of the greatest rosters you could probably ever amass, you know, on the face of the earth right now for pro wrestling, and they're giving fans what they want. They're putting on a great product. I think they're just probably overwhelmed right now. You know what I mean? Like the company's still taking its baby steps. And when I see how many people are already over there, like I admit that I don't watch TV basically in general, but I still follow everything on social media and I see what's going on. And I don't feel like I see a lot from their tag division right now.
Yeah.
And so that's just me going, this is my judgment on it. But even when I talk to the people I know over there, I don't see it being used well enough. And so at the same time, the only thing keeping me from going like, hey, do you want to do something with this is because like there's already, I don't know how many people that are there doing it right now as well. And I'd rather, you know, be able to come in and do something better like with everybody in a division. Like I know when we all first initially did the SmackDown or the draft when we were all there, we had such an awesome division. We were always trying to pitch something to do for the whole division because there was only time on the show for, you know, one segment with the tag team champions, and you know maybe you might be able to get in another 5-minute match with a 6-man tag or something like that, where it was just a rushed clusterfuck. And I think AEW is like, as they expand and they get more programs, they'll be able to do more. And I would say by then, maybe it's a better use for us than just to bring us on now and try to throw us in the mix while they're still getting everything, getting their own flow going for everything. I would definitely love to be a part of it, but I want it to be worth everybody's time. And I'm pretty sure Connor feels the same way in that aspect.
Yeah, we had a poll there a couple of months back on the WrestleSlam podcast Twitter page, and you were voted. You know what I mean? We were looking at tag teams that were out there at the moment. Mentioned a couple of legends in the past, and you were up there. So like it's relevant. These things need to happen. Do you know what I mean? And as you say, look, there's a lot of stuff happening at the moment. For the wrestling fan, you have the Forbidden Door, which is New Japan Pro Wrestling, and Impact, and all the organizations mixed. But I'm just hopeful that someone does approach the two of you. I know Connor kind of looks after the bookings, but I hope it does happen, because it would be an absolute catastrophe if it does not happen.
Yeah, we both put out like our feelers in areas, and just it's odd. Like it's honestly come back to the answer of I don't know why there's not more going on, which is usually seems to always be the answer for myself and Connor. Like there's certain things we just never can find the answers for, and so I don't know. Hopefully we remedy that coming up here soon, because there's definitely a lot of cool shit we'd love to be a part of. Like we would love to work for New Japan. We'd love to work for any one of the companies over here that are, you see televised, and, all the guys we've done interviews with in the UK, we've been hoping to come over there and do stuff too. And, the plague keeps us down in that aspect from being able to come back and have fun. But I'm glad to hear you guys are getting shows again. So
well, yeah, we have, as you say, over the top wrestling, which is it's huge. There's been a lot of cross brands with them in Dublin. They obviously have a good connection with All Elite Wrestling. Cody's been over the Young Bucks, Omega. So hopefully the team at OTT, providing flights and all that can happen, do have you over in Dublin. We can look after you. We'll make sure you're looked after. I think you've been to Ireland before, haven't you? I recall.
Only a couple times, and I never really got to do much. I can remember the last time I was there looking out of my hotel room, and it looked really nice and sunny. It was a very nice day, and that was like honestly all I can remember about it. I was like, oh, Ireland looks really nice today. So
yeah, no, it's a nice place, and look, you'd be more than welcome. But as I say, I hope people watch this interview, Vic, and I hope they know that you're open to being booked. These people must think that you're hibernating, but it's not that case. Open to business. It's an absolute pleasure, honestly. Look, we're big fans. We've been lucky enough to see on our screens for many years. It's not been a short road. You've been on the road a long time.
Yeah, I know. I just I tweeted the other day because I realized I had my anniversary of when I first left home to start the journey, and I was like, holy shit! I've now been wrestling longer than I was years old when I started wrestling. So.
Yeah. You're only a baby. But as I said, hopefully all the promotions watch it. You know what I mean? We have a great following here in Cork, in Ireland, across Europe and worldwide. So hopefully we see you back soon, and hopefully we see you on perhaps an All Elite screen, a New Japan Pro Wrestling screen, an Impact screen. Who knows? Maybe down the road an NXT 2.0 screen. Who knows? But it's a pleasure, Vic. Thank you very much for your time, and we'll see you soon.
Cool. Thanks, man. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. See you soon, my man.
Thank you.